The state of Kuwait will enforce a 12-hour partial curfew from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. starting Sunday as part of a 5-phase plan to gradually return to normal life. This step is part of a slew of measures to ease coronavirus-related restrictions. As per the new measures, mosques will reopen from Sunday in accordance with health guidelines and preventive measures. One Turkish soldier has died from an explosion along the M4 highway in Syria's Idlib, the last opposition stronghold in the country. In a statement Wednesday, the Turkish Defense Ministry said the soldier was wounded in an explosion and died later in hospital. It said the explosion took place in an area about 250 meters south of a road patrolled by Turkish forces. The cause of the explosion was not immediately clear. The Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Jerusalem will reopen Sunday after a 2-month closure due to novel coronavirus. Details of the reopening have not yet been finalized, including whether the mosques on the site will be opened to worshippers or if the public will only be allowed into the courtyard where the faithful also pray. The compound, located in Israeli-annexed East Jerusalem, closed its doors in March as part of measures to limit the spread of the novel coronavirus. Protesters calling for jobs have brought Tunisia's phosphate output to a halt by staging sit-ins at state-run Gafsa Phosphate, the country's sole producer. The protests are one of the first tests for the new government of Prime Minister Ilyas Fakhfakh, who said last month that raising phosphate production would be one of his priorities. Tunisia was once one of the world's largest producers of phosphate minerals, which are used to make fertilizers, but its market share fell after 2011 uprising against then-President Zain al-Abidine bin Ali. The United States has decided to end sanctions waivers allowing Russian, Chinese, and European firms to continue work at certain Iranian nuclear sites. According to the sources, confirmed a report in the Washington Post that said the decision applied to waivers involving Iran's Arak heavy water research reactor, provision of enriched uranium for its Tehran research reactor, and the transfer of spent and scrap research reactor fuel out of Iran. Russia denied that it has sent military personnel to Libya, refuting American accusations Tuesday that it has deployed fighter aircraft to the North African country to back the Libyan National Army commanded by Khalifa Haftar. The Russian Upper House of Parliament has not received a request to approve such a dispatch. The U.S. military earlier said Moscow had deployed the aircraft to support Russian mercenaries fighting for the LNA. The Sultanate of Oman ended the lockdown of its Muscat Governorate, which includes the capital, that has been in place since April 10th as the Sultanate eases its coronavirus containment measures. It said the state committee had also ordered government entities to ensure at least 50% of employees are working from their offices from May 31st. A number of Gulf countries announced this week that they will begin easing virus restrictions. Since the start of 2020, IS militant group has been mounting activities that suggest the group has reorganized its ranks after the defeats it sustained in the past few years on both sides of the Syrian-Iraqi borders. The Iraqi army, however, is showing no signs of concern over the growing activities of the terrorist group. Military spokesman Yahya Rasool said the IS no longer poses a threat to Iraq and that its cells are nearly completely destroyed and unable to threaten Iraqi towns and civilians. The Turkish army deployed US-made medium-range surface-to-air MIM-23 Hawk missiles in Syria's Idlib. Shared on social media, the images reveal the location of the air defense system in Al-Mistuma camp, which is located 5 kilometers south of Idlib city. This is not the first time Ankara deploys such a defense system in Syria. In early 2018, Turkey sent the system to Dar Izza in the western Aleppo countryside. The crisis between Egypt's top medical union and health ministry continued as the impact of the coronavirus increased in the country. Doctors are demanding better protection and measures that ensures the safety and treatment should they contract the virus. Egypt's health ministry, on the other hand, claims that it's committed to protecting doctors and providing health and psychological assistance to health workers. French Foreign Minister said that relations with Iran had become more difficult after Tehran sentenced a French-Iranian academic to prison in what he said was a politically motivated decision. Iran has rejected France's previous calls to release the 60-year-old anthropologist who has been detained since June 2019, saying the demands were interference in Tehran's internal affairs. Tehran does not recognize dual nationality. Iran further eased the restrictions aimed at curbing the spread of the novel coronavirus Tuesday by allowing restaurants to accept customers as it announced another 57 deaths from the virus. Since the first cases of COVID-19 appeared on its soil in mid-February, the country has sought to halt the spread of the virus without imposing lockdowns. Experts both at home and abroad have voiced skepticism about Iran's official figures, saying the real toll could be much higher. The Afghan government said it was in the process of freeing 900 Taliban members from prison on Tuesday, the biggest such release yet, and urged the insurgent group to extend a 3-day ceasefire set to end at midnight. The pause in fighting, which came into effect Sunday to mark the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Fitr, was for the most part holding across the country. The government responded to the Taliban's 3-day ceasefire offer Sunday by announcing plans to release up to 2,000 insurgent prisoners. The United States imposed sanctions on 2 Iranian nuclear officials, Majid Aghari and Amjad Sazjar, as it announced it's sending waivers for nations that remain in the Iran nuclear accord. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo confirmed it will terminate sanctions waiver that had allowed Russian, Chinese, and European companies to continue work aimed at making Iranian nuclear sites less prone to be used to develop weapons. The waivers, which will expire after 60 days, had covered the conversion of Iran's Arak heavy water research reactor, the provision of enriched uranium for its Tehran research reactor, and the transfer of spent and scrap reactor fuel abroad. Sudanese authorities said that 3 former senior aides to ousted President Omar al-Bashir have caught the novel coronavirus in prison. Former officials Ali Uthman Taha, Ahmed Mohammed Haroun, and Abdulrahim Mohammed Hussein have been held in Khartoum's Kobar prison since Bashir's military ouster in April 2019, following mass protests against his rule. All 3 are awaiting trial in Sudan for corruption and other offenses. U.S. Special Representative for Iran Brian Hook said U.S. President Donald Trump's maximum pressure policy is giving Iran a choice between negotiating with the United States or managing the economic collapse caused by U.S. sanctions. The United States said on Wednesday it will terminate sanctions waiver that had allowed Russian, Chinese, and European companies to carry out work originally designed to make it harder for Iranian nuclear sites to be used for weapons development. In a statement, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo gave no precise justification for the move, which will hold some work originally designed to make it more difficult for Iran to potentially develop fissile material for nuclear bombs.